Alright guys, welcome back to Chapter 3 of the Walking Dead All Out War Safety Behind Bars expansion. This is going to be called Clearinghouse. And in this mission, the description says, with their group now at its largest point, Rick organizes his people into teams to search the prison, room by room, and clear out the walkers that roam the darkened corridors. So here we're going to have our prison board set up again. We're going to be using the interior and the exterior of the prison. Just like the rest of the battle reports, if you guys want to skip over this intro portion and get straight into the battle report itself, there are going to be timestamps down there in the description. Feel free to click on them and jump straight into it. If you want to hang out and listen to me talk for a little bit more, make sure you go over and subscribe to the channel. Let's go ahead and talk about how the board's going to be set up and what survivors we're going to have. So here again we have our board. There are 4 walkers on the outside of the fence, and there are going to be 4 walkers inside of the prison yard. And then for our team, they're going to be set up inside of what is going to be the cafeteria of the prison over here. And we're going to have Glenn as the supply run master. He's going to have a tire iron. Tyrese is the pro football player version of himself, and he is going to be unarmed at the start of the game. Billy Green is the marksman. He has a 9mm pistol. And Andrea is the skilled sharpshooter, and she's going to have an Uzi. That is 60 points of equipment. The scenario gives us 50 as the base, and we get an extra 10 because of the supply tokens that we gathered in the last mission. Okay, so the victory conditions for this mission are pretty hefty. And it says that our survivors have to search every room that is inside of the prison, collect every supply token, and there are 6 of them. We have 1 in this office, 1 in each of the prison cells, 1 behind the counter, 1 in front of the counter, and then 1 out here on top of the watchtower, which is actually inside, along with the armored walker that is up there. He didn't climb up there. It's just there for a visual reminder that, hey, when someone enters that thing for the first time, we're going to spawn an armored walker coming out of there. So in addition to clearing the rooms and securing all of the supply tokens, we also have to eliminate all the walkers that are on the board. So it's a lot for these 4 survivors to take on, but we're going to give it a shot and see if we can clear out the prison. Alright guys, so we are going to start out here on turn 1, and for this mission the threat is going to be set to 1 to start, and we're going to start out with Tyrese. So for Tyrese's first action, we are going to come up here to the door and go through it into this long hallway. Now if you watched the other battle reports using the interior of the prison, you would know that this long hallway here, when we go through this door, we can go down to this wall, which actually is going to take us into this area over here by the stairwell, and then this is one long continuous hallway coming out down into here, and this is going to be opened up all the way through once Tyrese goes through this door right here. So let's have him do that. All right, and opening the door cost 1 action. So with this first action he moves to the door, second action he's going to open it. And now Tyrese is sitting here in the corner, and the other characters can now run down the hallway. Alright, next we're going to take Glenn, and he is going to make a run action through the doorway to get over there to the office area and try and search that room. So Glenn comes 8 inches out of the cafeteria, into the hallway, and now in front of the office. Now this scenario says when you enter into the long hallways, which we just crossed through, we're going to roll a red die and spawn that many walkers inside of there. So let's go ahead and do that. Alright, so we go ahead and we roll a 2, and with this mission, like I said, there are 2 long hallways. So there's the one that Glenn just crossed through, which is going to come, remember, down through the stairwell and then into this area right here. The other long hallway runs the entire length of this side of the table. And anytime walkers are going to spawn, they're going to spawn along the wall inside that corridor. So we have one walker here, and the second walker is down here. So now back over here with Glenn. Glenn ran. There are no walkers within 10 inches of him, so it doesn't matter if he makes noise or not. And for his second action, he's going to open up this office door. And opening up that door is going to spawn walkers inside of that room. And when we enter a room for the first time, we're going to roll a red die to see how many walkers are inside. So we spawn one walker inside the room, and we put it in contact with the supply counter. Alright, back over with these guys, we're going to activate Billy and have Billy go out into the hallway, past Tyrese. So Billy goes ahead and runs out into the hallway. That's going to cause noise and draw in the closest walker, which is inside the office here in contact with that supply counter. So typically the walker would move towards the sound of the noise and then stop when they run into an obstacle. When you're inside of a building, they run into the obstacle and then they continue their 6-inch move in the direction of that. So here we're going to have the walker run into the wall, which was about a 2-inch move, and then he's going to continue his movement down towards the doorway to get out towards the source of the sound. So our walker then continues his movement along the wall and through the doorway, and now he's in contact with Glenn just on the other side of the room here. And then that leaves us with Andrea, and for Andrea, she is going to make a run action through the door and then over into contact with that walker to help out Glenn in melee. Alright, now it's going to bring us to the end of all of our actions. So kill zones is just the one walker right there who's going to be in contact with anyone. No one else is going to be moving around. So go into our first event card, and it's going to be, this is a newer card, it is going to be Fear. So the threat is currently on 1 because we just started out the game, and says that we are going to add a plus white to the threat. And if we stay in low, we'll have no effect. So let's go ahead and roll for that. So roll a white die and add this many to the threat. 1. So we go from 1 up to 2. Alright, so kill zone and event card out of the way. We'll move into melee, up threat by 1 to 3. And we're going to have Glenn and Andrea against one walker. Now, Glenn has a white as his base melee, and he's carrying a tire iron, which gives him an extra white. And Andrea is also white as her base melee. So we're rolling 3 white against 1 purple for the walker. Alright, so between the two of them, they are able to successfully remove that walker, and we have no bites, no prone walkers. That's going to be the end of the first turn. Alright, so we're going to start turn 2. We've upped threat by 1 thanks to single play. We're at 4, which is the top of low threat. And for this turn, we're going to start out with Glenn. Glenn is going to make a sneak move into this room and then search the first supply counter. And inside the bag of guns, Glenn is going to find a trash can lid. So we'll go ahead and equip this. So Glenn is now ready to audition for Stomp, as he has his tire iron and trash can lid to walk around and make a bunch of noise. Alright, so then we're going to move over here to Billy. Billy is going to make an 8-inch run action straight towards that wall in front of him because, again, that's a hallway. He's going to come out on the other side over there in that stairwell. So that brings Billy all the way over here to this side of the prison, which is going to make noise and pull in the walker down here off of the wall into contact with him. Alright, then we're going to go to Andrea, and the first thing she's going to do before sprinting down that hallway to keep up with Billy is going to be to try to lower the threat. So the threat is going to stay on 4. Alright, so the threat stays on 4, and now again Andrea is going to run down that hallway to try and keep up with Billy. So Andrea makes it right there to the end of that hallway, and Tyrese, he's going to try to lower the threat as well before he runs up there and gets next to Andrea. Tyrese rolls a star, and we take the threat from 4 back down to 3. And then for his second action, he's going to run from there 8 inches up here, probably past Andrea, into that hallway. All right, so it's a little hard to see there. Tyrese makes it over to right here, just on the other side of Andrea. And I believe that this walker down here is within 10 inches. So we're gonna go ahead and move him a shamble distance. So he comes up through the hallway there, and I believe he's still gonna be outside of Billy's kill zone, but he's getting awfully close. All right, so that's all of our actions. We went ahead and checked out some kill zones, and unfortunately, Tyrese's run did draw that walker up close enough. So he is within Billy's kill zone, so we'll go ahead and move that guy just through the doorway there. And now Billy's gonna be facing 2 in combat. Before we get there, we're going to draw our next event card. And we have another new one. So +1 to the threat, back up to 4. And we're going to be facing Judgment Day. So we're on low threat. Draw another event card and resolve it. Then roll the 50-50 die. And on a star start the event phase all over again. So our next event card will be Won't Stay Down. So for each prone walker, roll a 50-50 die. We don't have any of those. So if there are no prone walkers, add +1 to the threat. So from 4 up to 5. And now back to the second part of this one. Roll a 50-50 die, and on a star, start the event phase all over again. All right, so we definitely had kind of a rough start to this game. So let's see what happens here. All right, so here we go. Event phase all over again. There are no more walkers for kill zone checks, so we can go past that. And our next event card is going to be, lots of new cards here. The Rapture, so +red to the threat, and all prone walkers stand up. We don't have that. If there are no prone walkers in play, draw another card. All right, +red to the threat. We're currently on 5. Add 2 more. 6, 7. And another event card. All right, someone is surrounded. So +1 to the threat. Now to 8. And the player with initiative, which is me because it's single player, must choose one standing survivor. Place the kill zone over that model, and blue walkers enter play. And they're placed at the edge of the kill zone. There's not enough room. You can find anchors start by 1. All right, so let's go ahead and pick someone. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and pick Tyrese, and we're gonna roll the blue die and then put some walkers around Tyrese. All right, and you're probably yelling, why Tyrese? Why are you gonna put walkers around him? Billy's already fighting too. Well, we need to clear the prison, and that back half is already cleared out, so I don't want to put anything back there and then have to backtrack. So we're gonna put this many walkers around Tyrese. All right, so Tyrese rolls a 1, and we take that 1 walker and bring it back here outside of his kill zone in contact with Andrea up there in the right corner. All right, so thankfully we are finally finished with that event phase for turn 2, and the threat wound up on 8. We're gonna go into the melee phase, take it up to 9. So now we're at the top of medium threat already, and we're gonna start out with Andrea against this single walker. So Andrea, remember, rolls a white base against 1 purple for the walker. All right, so Andrea in total beast mode eliminates that walker barehanded. So let's go over here to Billy against 2 walkers. All right, so over here we have Billy against these 2 walkers. I was looking at the rules for firing his handgun in combat, but it's only 1 shot, so it's not really gonna help me. And then I have to defend against the other walker. We're just gonna go ahead and defend. Billy gets a white die in defense against 3 purple dice for the 2 walkers. All right, so I really need Billy to hold on here until Tyrese can come up and help him out in combat. That is not a good roll for Billy. All right, so Billy loses combat by 4 and is bitten. So he goes down to 1 wound left and could potentially be out of the game if he fails his infection roll here. So we have no prone walkers. That is going to be the end of turn 2. Let's roll to see if Billy goes down due to the infection here. All right, so for the infection roll, if it's a badge, Billy's going to survive, and if it's a blank, the infection will spread and he will be out of the game. All right, so Billy's going to live on for at least one more turn. All right, started turn 3 finally. Turn 2 was the longest turn ever. Like the video if you've ever had an event phase like that just would not end. I mean, that was insane. So here we are. Because this is my board and my game, we're going to say that this stairwell right here isn't there and that we can move freely within this room. This is just one long corridor. All right, in this turn we are going to start out with Billy. And Billy is not doing really well right now. He is going to start out by lowering the threat. And remember, we upped it 1 at the end of last turn, so we are now at 10 in the medium threat. So Billy is going to lower the threat back down to 9. Which is going to work out well because Billy's second action, he's going to use his handgun and take a shot at the walker in front of him in the doorway. So for that, Billy's going to be rolling a red and a white as his base shooting, and then because he has the 9mm pistol, 2 more red dice in addition to that. So 3 red and 1 white versus 1 purple for the walker here. All right, so Billy manages to take out that walker with a headshot or 2. And before we move that walker into contact with him and up the threat because of the melee, let's roll to see if he's out of ammo. So badge will be ammo in the gun, blank will be empty. And while we're down here, because of the melee, threat is back up to 10. So Billy eliminates 1 walker, moves the threat back up to 10 after dropping it by 1, has the walker move into contact with him, and now we're going to come back here to Tyrese. And remember, those steps aren't there, so Tyrese is going to try to reduce the threat before moving into contact with that walker to help out Billy. So the threat goes back down to 9. Now Tyrese is going to come out of the shadows and up here behind this walker to help out Billy in melee. All right, we still got Glenn and Andrea back here on this side of the board. So we're gonna have Andrea make a run move after she tries to lower the threat again. I'd really like to get that back down into low, and then she's gonna go head up there to help out that melee in the front. And we get it back down to low threat at 8. And now Andrea's gonna run down the hallway, and we're gonna have all 3 in combat with this single walker. Now back over here to poor Glenn, who's been left all by himself. Same thing, lower the threat, run towards the rest of the team. Gonna stay on 8. So Glenn makes it out of the room and almost makes it to the beginning of the other side of that hallway. All right, we got no kill zones to check. Let's go into the 3rd event phase, and we come up to roamers. So thankfully, we are still in low threat. So each player moves 1 eligible walker in a direction of their choice. All right, so for that, we're going to come over to the prison yard, and we're going to go ahead and move the walker on the far left towards the prison entrance. And we go ahead and put him right there at the edge of the steps. All right, melee combat, we're going to up the threat by 1, back to 9 at the top of medium. And we have everyone against this single walker. So we're going to have Billy roll a red in melee. Andrea has a white for her melee. Tyrese rolls 2 white for his melee. And because he is the leader, he has an ability called block and tackle, which says that anytime he's fighting unarmed or with a weapon that has the bludgeon keyword in melee combat, he can add an extra red. So we're going to have a fistful of dice against a single purple for this 1 walker. Alright, so just because it would make the story sound that much cooler, we're going to say that that red headshot was from Billy, and that he was the one who was able to eliminate that walker. That's going to be the end of all of our melee combat. We have no prone walkers still. Let's go ahead and roll for Billy's infection and see if he makes it into turn 4. Alright guys, we're going to be at the start of turn 4, and threat has reached 10, so we are just into medium threat. We're going to start out here by having Billy come through that doorway and come around the corner there and open up the door leading into the room where the prison cells are. Down here, and that is both of Billy's actions. Then we're going to move over to Tyrese and have him come down here past Billy, and he's going to go into that room and open up the first prison cell. And that is both of Tyrese's actions, and now because we open up that cell door, we're going to spawn a walker inside of there, so we'll roll a red die and put that many walkers inside of there. Alright, and that cell is going to contain 1 walker, so now for Andrea, we're going to measure it out and see if she can make it down there and open up the second cell. Alright, so Andrea has just enough distance to make it over here using a run action, so she opened up that cell door. That noise is going to draw in the closest walker to her, which is inside of this first cell. And he's going to come out of the cell and in contact with Tyrese. And now we'll roll and see how many walkers are inside of the cell that Andrea just opened. And we have 1 walker inside of there as well. So now we come back around here to Glenn. And Glenn is going to make an 8-inch run and try and get down there into that hallway. Alright, so Glenn actually had enough movement to come all the way through that hallway and then turn the corner and go into the front room. So now we'll roll to see how many walkers spawn in this side of the building. And we'll do 1 red die for this and 1 red die for this side. So this will be the side where Glenn currently is. We'll have 1 walker. And on the front side, closer to the red book bag. And while we're down here, we'll see if Glenn made noise on his run, and because he has the tread lightly special rule, if he rolls a badge, he does not make noise. If he did, then that walker is probably going to get drawn into contact with him. So he spawned that walker. Glenn's going to make noise. It's going to pull her into contact with him, and that's going to be all of the actions for this phase. So we'll check some kill zones, and after the kill zone check, the walker that's in Andrea's cell is going to come into contact with her. So we're going to have Andrea, Glenn, and Tyrese all in combat this phase. Before we get to that, we'll go to our next event card, which will be Rouse Lurkers. So we're going to go +1 to the threat, so that'll move us up to 11. And since we're in medium, so this is as in low threat, which said white walkers in contact with each supply counter, so we'll roll for those. And then we're going to have blue walkers enter play. Alright, so this many extra walkers are going to go in contact with each of the remaining supply counters. Alright, so we really luck out there. Now let's see how many walkers are going to enter play. Alright, so we're bringing those 2 extra walkers in play, and remember, anytime walkers spawn, they have to come on this board edge over here. So we put 1 walker here, and 1 down here. Let's go into the melee combat now. So we're going to up the threat by 1, up to 12, and we'll start out with Andrea against 1 walker. Alright, so Andrea will be rolling a single white die against 1 purple in combat. Alright, so Andrea continues to make short work of all the walkers that are in front of her. We'll move over to Tyrese against a single walker. Alright, now remember Tyrese has 2 white and a red against a single purple for the walker. Alright, so Tyrese destroys that walker as well, and that just leaves us with Glenn against this single walker down here. Alright, Glenn's rolling a white base and a white for the tire iron against a single purple. Alright, so great round of melee there. Everyone eliminated all of the walkers that they had to deal with. Next turn is going to be picking up a lot of supply tokens and clearing out the majority of this prison. Hopefully we can wind up going outside. That's going to be the end of turn 4. We have no prone walkers. Billy is still bitten and infected, so we'll roll for that and see if he makes it to turn 5. Okay, start of turn 5. Threat has gone up to 13. We are just about to get into high threat, and for this one we're going to start out with Glenn. And first thing Glenn is going to do is make a sneak action, which is only 4 inches, across the counter, and he can do that because he's a runner, so he's going to automatically pass that climb test. And he's going to go search the red book bag in the front side there. So Glenn jumps the counter, he searches the red bag, and I missed this with the first supply counter, but when you search a supply counter inside of a building, it counts as a resource hub. So what that is we roll a blue die, and we're going to draw that many supply cards from the deck instead of a single one. So Glenn finds 2 supplies, and he comes up with some riot gear and a shiv. Alright, so that worked out really well. Glenn picks up some useful equipment. Let's come back here to Billy. And Billy is, remember, he's on his last leg. So the first thing we're going to get him to do is try to drop the threat by 1. Alright, so Billy's unfortunately unable to lower the threat, so that stays at 13. For his next action, he's just going to move up and engage this walker. Alright, so back here with Andrea and Tyrese. They're both going to do the same thing. They're both going to enter the cell and search the supply tokens. So we'll start with Andrea. She goes in, she searches the supply token, and now we'll roll to see how many supplies she's going to find. So Andrea also finds 2 supplies, and she comes up with some bandages, an old gun. Alright, now with Tyrese, he's going to go in and search, and now we'll roll to see how many supplies Tyrese is going to find. So Tyrese just gets 1, and he is going to find a fire extinguisher. Alright, so that's all of our survivor actions. We have no kill zones to check for. It's just going to have Billy in contact with that 1 walker. So we'll go into our event card, and we come up with traps. So all threat levels, player with initiative must choose 1 survivor inside with 3 inches of the woods. So we're all inside, so we don't have anyone that's going to qualify for that guy. So we go straight to the bottom. If there are no eligible models to choose, increase the threat level by 1 instead. So the threat goes up to 14, and we are now in high threat. Alright, so after the event phase, we go into melee, and we're going to up it by 1 to 15 because Billy is in melee combat, and we'll take care of this. So Billy will be attacking with a single red die against a single purple for the walker. Alright, so Billy lasted honestly longer than I thought he would, walking around with that bite marker on him. He has finally been taken down to 0 wounds and returns as a prone walker. So at the end of turn 5, we're going to roll to see if prone Billy stands back up. And on a badge, he will stay down, and a blank, he will stand back up. Okay, start of turn 6. Threat is up to 16 now. And just to recap, Billy is now a prone walker. We have collected 4 of the 6 supply tokens. There's still 1 there in that lobby and 1 out here inside of the guard tower that we've yet to make it into. And there's a lot of walkers to still clear out. So I'm not sure if we're going to make it through this one or not. We have to spend a good chunk of this turn trying to lower the threat. So let's start out back here with Tyrese and get him to roll and try and lower the threat. Alright, so we drop the threat back down to 15. And then for his second action, we're going to run out and engage both of these walkers. Well, actually sneak out, engage the prone walker, and then the other walker will be drawn in the kill zone phase. Okay, so for Andrea, she is medium nerve, so we're gonna have to roll the panic die to see what she can do this turn. And that question mark means that we can do one single action, and she is going to try to reduce the threat. So we take the threat back down to 14. And now out here with Glenn. Glenn has high nerve, so we're going to take Glenn and try to get him to lower the threat as well. So we are back at the very bottom of medium. And then for Glenn's second action, we're going to hop back over the counter and be in contact with that supply counter so we can search it next turn. That's going to be all of our actions for the survivors. Kill zones, remember we have Tyrese down here, who's going to have that walker move into contact with him. And outside of that, we're just going to go into our next event card. Okay, so this one says Forest Walkers. So walkers shamble out of the trees. Walkers are placed using the rules for walkers earning play, but are placed at the edge of an area of woods instead of the board edge. We don't have any woods right here at this side. So if there are no woods or the walkers cannot be placed there, then place them on the board edge as normal. We are in medium threat now, so we're going to roll a blue die and place that many walkers where we normally would. Alright, so we bring on one new walker, and we put her right here in between those two rooms, and we will go into melee combat now. So the threat will go up 1 to 14, back in high threat, and we just have Tyrese in combat with one prone walker and one standing walker. Alright, so Tyrese is still fighting unarmed. He is going to get his double white as his base, a red because he's unarmed, and he also has a special rule that says beat down, whereas if he is outnumbered in combat by 2 to 1, he gains an extra red. So he'll be rolling 2 red and 2 white, and I couldn't find anything in the rules about prone walkers adding into the outnumbered rule. So we're going to say that these walkers are going to roll 1 for the prone walker, and then 1 for the standing walker. If I'm wrong, let me know in the comments. Alright, so Tyrese is able to clear out this back side of the hallway, and like I said, if I was wrong about the prone walker, and this should have been 3 dice for the walker, let me know, and I'll make adjustments for future videos. But for now, Tyrese got rid of both of them. And after that melee, that's going to be the end of this turn. We have no prone walkers, and Billy's not on the board anymore, so we don't have any more bites. We're going to up the threat by 1 to 15 and go into turn 7. Okay, start of turn 7. Threat is at 15. We're going to start out with Glenn, and remember Glenn has high nerve, so he's not going to panic. First thing we're going to do is try and lower the threat. So we drop the threat back down to 14. And having lowered the threat, next thing we're going to do is search this supply counter. And Glenn is going to find 1 supply inside of there, and he comes up with an ammo reload. Alright, and with that we have all of the supplies that are inside of the prison. We just have to get the one remaining one out of the watchtower outside there. So let's go over to Tyrese and start out with him, and he is going to attempt to lower the threat as well. And we're going to stay in high threat. Alright, so we're going to stay in high threat. We need to get rid of both of the walkers that are up here. So we're going to get Tyrese to run up in between them, draw one in, and be close enough to the second one to pull it in the kill zone phase. So we move Tyrese up there just inside that doorway, which pulls the lady walker into him and should be close enough to get the other one in there with the kill zone. And that brings us back over here to Andrea, who is still inside of the prison cell. We need to get her to take a panic test. Alright, so Andrea can perform one action. I was really torn between either moving her out of the cell or lowering the threat. And I'm going to go with the sure thing and try and keep her with the group and get her to make a run action and get out of that cell. So she makes a run move, comes up to about here, and that noise is going to draw that walker up there with Tyrese into contact with him. Alright, that's all of our actions for this phase. We have no kill zones to check, so we'll go into our next event card. Alright, so we're going to have the Escaped Livestock event card, and we're just getting all kinds of stuff in this battle report here. So, terrified farm animals escape from their enclosures, drawing attention of walkers. Player with initiative chooses a barn, split rail fence, or barrier. Any scenery piece within 3 inches, including the piece, generates noise. That bottom part down there where it says any scenery piece that has 1 point is removed. We're not going to do that. I'm not going to knock down a prison fence because a fox or whatever other animal runs into it. So let's do this outside. Alright, so we're going to the prison yard, and we've got this nice fence over here with a gate, and then we have the long fence across the front portion. And what we're going to do is choose the open gate portion back here and say this is flapping in the breeze like this. It's going to create noise, and then draw in the closest walker, which is this guy, which is going to move him over there in contact with the gate. Alright, so when we come back inside of the prison, we go to the melee phase, so we're going to up the threat back to 15, and we have Tyrese against 2 walkers. Alright, so this time we are going to roll the 3 purple dice for the walkers because they're both standing. So Tyrese is going to have 2 red, 2 white against 3 purple. Alright, so a whole lot of misses there in that round of combat. It's going to come out with Tyrese getting rid of 1 walker with a headshot and knocking the other one prone. Alright, so we now have 1 prone walker. We are at the end of turn 7, so we're going to roll to see if that walker stands back up. Alright, threat has gone up 1 again. We are at 16 now at the start of turn 8. And for this one, we're going to start out with Glenn and get him to try to lower the threat by 1. Alright, so Glenn fails to lower the threat. Next thing we're going to do is hop across the counter and be in position to open up the door. And then we'll come down to Tyrese. Tyrese is also going to try and lower the threat. And he does. So we take the threat back down to 15. Okay, and now for Tyrese's second action, he is going to go over in contact with that prone walker so we can get rid of her. And again back here with Andrea, because we're in high threat, she has to take a panic test. So again, we got our single action, and again, we are just going to make a run action straight out to get up there with Glenn. I'm really hoping the game goes long enough so that I can get Andrea outside and at least get her to shoot with the Uzi 1 time. That's going to be all of our survivor actions. We have no kill zones to check for. Everyone's still inside the building. So let's go into another event card. Alright, so we just talked about the Uzi, and we're going to get to shoot it now. So we have shooting at shadows. So +1 threat. So threat goes up to 16. And it says all survivors with a nerve value lower than the current threat, which is Andrea, must shoot at the closest enemy model if they have a ranged weapon. So start with the player with initiative. Every time we shoot, we're going to bring in white walkers into play. Alright, so Andrea is going to take a shot at that prone walker that is in contact with Tyrese. So if you know about shooting into combat, we have to roll a 50-50 die because Andrea could potentially shoot Tyrese now. Alright, so we rolled a 50-50 badge, and on a star, we're going to shoot the walker, and on a blank, we are going to shoot Tyrese. Alright, so Andrea's going to shoot at Tyrese, and her base shoot is a white and red, and the Uzi adds an extra red to that. It is multiple shots with 3 potential shots. We're only going to choose to shoot once. So we're going to shoot at Tyrese, and His defense is blue, so we can roll everything all at one time and see what we come out with. Alright, so luckily that wasn't Andrea's best show of her sharpshooting skills, and Tyrese is able to block both shots, or they miss, or whatever happens. Tyrese takes no damage from that. However, we are going to bring in a white walker into play. So we'll roll for that now. So one additional walker, and because of the mayhem caused by the gun, threat goes up to 17. Alright, so we bring a new walker onto play there, onto that board edge, up in the front, and now we'll go into melee combat. Combat's going to raise threat by 1 to 18, and unfortunately this will be the last turn of the game. So we're going to have Tyrese against single walker. Alright, so Tyrese against this one walker will have 2 white, 1 red against 1 purple, and all we have to do is roll higher. We don't need the headshot because that walker's prone. Alright, so hopefully no one doubted Tyrese's ability to remove a prone walker. He shows off and puts a headshot out there anyway. But again, unfortunately, that will be the end of this game. So we make it to 8 turns. If we up the threat by 1, that's going to put us well above the 18 anyway. So this is a hard mission. Going all the way through the prison, collecting that many supply counters, constantly spawning the walkers back inside of the prison. It's a lot to get done. And then after that, having to go out into the yard and get rid of 4 walkers that are in the yard, along with 4 walkers that are outside of the yard. And granted, you can fight these through the fence, but it's a lot to accomplish with those survivors underneath of those conditions. Threat management is really, really difficult to keep up with here. It reminds me of the early Prelude to Woodbury games where I kept losing because of the threat just playing with the governor. But it was cool. It was fun to go through it. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel, especially if you watch this deep into the video. Please subscribe. Like the video. Let me know in the comments what you think of the game. And then make sure you guys come back for the 4th mission, because in that one we get to play with Michonne, and you don't want to miss that. So I'll look for you guys in that video.